Well, hey everybody. I hope you can hear me all right. I'm outside. It's windy today, but a beautiful sunny afternoon in the summertime, and I was going to just talk about a couple books today. And we have two today, which is not my normal. You can probably hear that boat. There's boats in the lake. This isn't my normal thing. I usually do one book, but I thought, given that I read two Golden Age writers back to back, that it would be a good time to do Arthur C. Clarke's Childhood's End and Robert A. Heinlein's The Day After Tomorrow. These are the two books I got. I also have this other copy of Childhood's End that I actually like better, but this is the one that I read. What should we do first? Good news or bad news? I bet you can guess which one's bad news. Let's start off with bad news. Robert A. Heinlein is... I was about to say something mean. This book sucks. I'm not going to make it my statement on Heinlein just based off one book that's like not even 150 pages. But this book sucks. It was written with a very obtuse way of he's spoken of in a very like 1950s way of, was it 1941, anyway, just very old-fashioned white man saves the day kind of way of writing, and it really annoyed me from start to finish. There wasn't really anything redeeming about this book. I did some brushing up on Childhood's End before I did this review, just so I would remember some of the things that I felt during that reading experience, because it's been a bit. I didn't bother to remind myself anything about this book. It was so lazily written. Obtuse just kept coming into my mind as the word I would use for his writing style. All I remember is that there's these like six U.S. guys who aren't even like, I think they're scientists if I remember right. They're not soldiers or anything. They might have been soldiers. I'm pretty sure it's just six ordinary citizens who like are scientists, and they get stuck under this bunker in Colorado while let's just say an Asian army takes over the world. It's like it's got just weirdly racist undertones, and I know the time period that it was written in like has something to do with it, but it doesn't excuse how the adversaries in this book are written as caricatures, and these six main protagonists are written just as like Superman characters that just like put on their glasses and say something quippy, and then they whip out their special trident thing that they make, this little do-it-all gadget that literally saves the world. It's so implausibly dumb that like I can't just go, oh, it was pulp, and kind of just pass it off to that. It was just dumb. It was bad, and it was poorly written, and it pissed me off. And I don't know, Heinlein has rubbed other people the wrong way, I know, and so it's not like I'm the only one to say this about him, but I just don't have any interest in reading Starship Troopers or Moon is a Harsh Mistress. I hope you can hear me okay. It's windy. I'm going to put this up to my mouth so you can at least, it gets a little blocked by the wind. I would just hate if I end this video and it's just all wind in the mic. But no, I don't know. I don't have any interest in returning to Heinlein anytime soon. And feel free to let me know what are his better books. I know that this is I've never heard this book talked about ever. So if this is just me reading a bad one of his, that's fine. But I don't know. His writing style did not make me. It didn't impress me. He's clearly third in the trio of Golden Age science fiction writers, and that's that. I don't have anything more to say about it. It was like a 2 out of 10, 0 out of 10. I don't even want to give it a score because it just wasn't fun. And that Golden Age writers leads me into Arthur C. Clarke, who you might know for his work on 2001: A Space Odyssey, which is his, I think, most well known work. Uh, Probably a lot due to the movie that was made, very famous movie in the '60s by Stanley Kubrick. And Childhood's End was a lot better. It had a lot more depth. It had a lot more identity. It had a lot more um, charm. Might not be the right word because Clarke didn't really write with a whole lot of like Kurt Vonnegut, Ray Bradbury type prose, but he had some charm to it that I thought was fun at times. I thought I've listened to a few reviews where people don't really like the reveal at the end of the first part of the Overlords, and I actually loved it. This was relatively early on in my reading experience of these science fiction novels, and like if you've read a bunch of them, you probably saw that coming. But this was like that moment was like formative in my like love for these old books, these older science fiction books that were foundational to the genre, because I didn't see it coming, and maybe that says more about me as a reader than it does about the genre. But I just thought the subversion of good and evil and how we perceive it in our modern day and that kind of thing, I just thought he did it really tastefully, and it was a really cool reveal. I won't spoil anything just yet, so feel free to stick around if you haven't read it. You don't want to be spoiled. The book starts off with this landing of this large spaceship over like different spaceships around Earth, actually, but there's one main Overlord spaceship. I think there's multiple. I'm remembering right. I think there's one main Overlord spaceship, and the United Nations like general has to go meet with them like once a month, and nobody knows what the Overlords look like, but they essentially remove poverty and war and sickness and everything negative from the globe in return for they're going to hold our hand into this next generation, these next generations. And humanity's like, well, we at least want to know who you are and like what you're doing here and your motivations. And the Overlords are very like hands off with that. No, we're not going to tell you, but we'll tell you and we'll show you who we are in 50 years. And so Corellin, the Overlord, like senior Overlord, reveals himself at the end of the first part. And that's kind of done. Like we don't really meet any more of those characters, and we move on to another generation of utopia society on Earth that these Overlords have ushered in, where there's not a whole lot of struggle, there's nothing going on, and people are kind of aimlessly wandering about. The Overlords are very interested in like paranormal activity, which I thought was kind of cool. Being as it's like they are super intelligent beings that have a lot of knowledge and power, but they don't have a lot of information on paranormal activity and that kind of thing. So they do their research in these human libraries, and there's a weird seance and some weird stuff. The second act was very forgettable to me. Not forgettable. It wasn't the most exciting. It wasn't as super engaging, but it led into the third act, which I thought was the best act of all of them, and the best moments of the book came in the third part, where we have like this post-utopian society that realizes that struggle is kind of necessary in the human experience, and without war and poverty and sickness, which I'm not saying anything, those things are good, but without those things, you have this kind of very aimless race of people. And so these artists and inventors and things go to this like kind of island commune of people who just want to be away from Overlords and what they've done. They want to just kind of re-embrace humanity and creativity and that kind of thing. And the ending is very unique in the sense that I didn't really know what was exactly happening, but I thought it was really cool. And I thought that the choice of one of the characters at the end speaks to the essence of that humanity that Clarke is trying to capture in this book. And so still spoiler free, I thought this book was fantastic. And if you like science fiction, especially vintage science fiction, you should definitely read this book. It was great. And it didn't take me forever to get through, even though it was written this was written 65, 70 years ago. No, 80, almost 80 years ago now, like 75 years. And sometimes I think a lot of modern day readers can assume that means that the prose are going to be clunky, or not clunky, but dense. The reading experience of this book is great, and I would highly recommend it. I think it's a 9 out of 10, nearly perfect book. If the second act would have had a little bit more, just a little bit more depth to it, I think maybe I missed something, but that slowed it down for me a little bit. But it was overall a nearly perfect book. Spoilers, because I'll talk about it just at the end here. I thought that the end where Jan decides to stay on Earth, knowing that like the Earth will essentially end, for like Clarke's speaking to humanity's inevitable demise, that we will like essentially end our own existence on Earth, whether it be through nuclear war or something else entirely. And I thought it was interesting that he said like these transcendent powers that these children, the next generations of children, start to have after the overlords are there, will eventually lead to the Earth's destruction. And Jan's like, no, I'm going to watch this happen, and I'm going to tell you what happens. I thought that was really cool, because again, it speaks to humanity's desire for like push and pull, and not a clean, happy ending. We need something deep inside us that wrestles with our existence, and I just really thought that ending punctuated Clarke's ultimate point. I thought, like I said, I would speak to the reveal after part one, where Corellin is revealed to be almost a devil demon figure with cloven hooves and the horns and a spiked tail and stuff. I almost thought he would have a pitchfork with him. But that reveal was that will be ingrained in my mind for years to come, because I think it just cemented in my mind this very formative thought that science fiction can transcend what I used to think of it as a genre. These Star Wars-esque thoughts that I used to have as a child about science fiction were kind of like the veil was lifted off, and I realized like, oh, this can speak to so much more. And other books that I read before this did that for me, but I think this moment in particular of Corellin being revealed as like a devil, but bringing this peace to Earth, was such a cool juxtaposition that I will always remember that, I think, as a reader, being a one of the milestones for me as a science fiction lover, where my jaw was on the floor and I didn't have anything to say, and I was like, this genre rocks. These books rule. And I really I was over the moon about that. And so I don't know. I don't have much more to say about either one, other than if you're a Heinlein defender, tell me why I should read a Heinlein, and give me give me a real argument. I want to know it. I want to know your reasons, rather than just like, oh, you're wrong about Heinlein. You're wrong. Like, give me some substance as to why I should read him. I know he was very influential, so tell me why. And Clarke, I have several books by Clarke that I would like to read. Rendezvous with Rama being one of them. City in the Stars, I think, is another one that I have that I want to read by him. And I want to read 2001: A Space Odyssey, and I will at some point. But these were both really, on both ends of the scale, good experiences for me to understand like where the genre has come from. Because before this, I hadn't really read much of that golden age and prior, if any. So, yeah, that about wraps up my thoughts. I apologize if there's a ton of wind distortion in the audio in this video, or the waves. I feel like the waves are drowning me out, the wind's drowning me out, but I don't know. I love coming outside to shoot these videos, and I think it makes these kind of things more enjoyable, where you get to see me out outside in nature rather than just in my stuffy room with all my books. But thank you, as always, so much for watching. I really appreciate you guys, and I will see you in the next video.